Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain and reveal 7 powerful psychological tricks women use to justify using you financially. I'll break down how each trick operates, the psychology that makes it effective, and most importantly, how to recognize when you're being manipulated before it destroys your financial stability and warps your understanding of what healthy relationships should look like. Before we dive into these tricks, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment if you've ever felt like you've been financially manipulated in a relationship. Maybe you've experienced that nagging feeling that you're being used, but the manipulation was so subtle and so well justified that you couldn't quite put your finger on what was wrong. Your story might help another man spot these signs before it's too late, and before he's trapped in a financially exploitative dynamic disguised as love. Now, let's expose these 7 psychological tricks one by one. Trick 1. I can't do it without you. This psychological trick operates by creating an artificial sense of dependence where she frames herself as helpless without your intervention. She presents every problem, every challenge, every financial need as something she simply cannot handle on her own. The consistent message is that if you don't step in and provide support, particularly financial support, she'll be unable to manage. She's not just asking for help, she's positioning your help as absolutely essential to her survival or well-being. The psychology behind this manipulation is dependency creation. She makes you feel indispensable, irreplaceable, and critically important by turning every problem into something only you can fix. This creates an emotional dynamic where saying no becomes extremely difficult because you'd be abandoning her in her time of need. It manufactures guilt by positioning you as her only lifeline, making refusal feel cruel and uncaring. What makes this trick particularly effective is that it appeals to masculine instincts to protect and provide. Most men feel good about being needed and being able to solve problems for people they care about. She's weaponizing that positive impulse by creating an illusion that your financial support is vital, not just to her comfort, but to her actual ability to function. You're not just being generous, you're being her hero, her savior, the only person who can help her through this crisis. Here's how this manifests in real relationship scenarios. She comes to you with a financial problem, maybe unexpected car repairs, overdue rent, or mounting credit card debt. But instead of presenting it as her problem that she needs to figure out, she frames it as something she absolutely cannot handle alone. She says, "I really need your help with this. I just can't do it on my own. I don't know what I'll do if you can't help me." The desperation in her voice, the helplessness in her presentation, all of it is designed to make you feel like you're her only option. The reality is very different from her presentation. She's not actually incapable of handling her own problems. She could budget differently, pick up extra work, cut expenses, ask family members, or find other solutions. But by positioning herself as completely helpless without you, she eliminates all those other options in your mind. You become convinced that your financial intervention is the only solution, and refusing would leave her in disaster. Over time, this trick conditions you to feel responsible for her financial stability. Every problem she encounters becomes your problem to solve. Every expense she can't cover becomes your obligation to handle. You've been transformed from her partner into her financial safety net, and she's conditioned you to believe that's your natural role in the relationship. Trick 2. I deserve this. This psychological trick reframes material desires as justified rewards that she's earned through her hard work, stress, or life circumstances. She doesn't present her wants as wants at all. Instead, she presents them as things she deserves, things she's entitled to based on what she's been through or what she's accomplished. This transforms a luxury purchase or expensive experience from an indulgence into a rightful compensation that someone, presumably you, should provide. The psychology driving this manipulation is self-entitlement justification. By framing her request as something she deserves rather than simply wants, she taps into your sense of fairness and justice. If she's worked hard, if she's been stressed, if she's dealt with challenges, then doesn't she deserve to be rewarded? And if you care about her, shouldn't you be the one providing that reward? The guilt comes from feeling like denying her would be unfair, like you're withholding something she's legitimately earned. What makes this trick so effective is how it weaponizes self-care culture and the language of deservedness. In modern discourse, we're constantly told that people deserve to treat themselves, that self-care isn't selfish, and that rewarding yourself is healthy and important. She's co-opting that language to justify expensive purchases and then transferring the financial burden to you while maintaining the moral high ground of someone who's just practicing healthy self-care. Let me show you exactly how this sounds in real conversations. She's had a stressful week at work, and she says, "I've been working so hard lately, dealing with so much pressure. I really deserve to treat myself to this vacation. Don't you think I've earned it after everything I've been through?" Notice the structure. She's established that she's suffered or worked hard, therefore she deserves a reward, and she's seeking your agreement to validate that logic. The manipulation is in what happens next. Once you agree that, yes, she does deserve something nice after working so hard, you've implicitly agreed to be the one who provides it. She didn't directly ask you to pay for the vacation, but by establishing that she deserves it and getting your agreement, she's created an obligation for you to make it happen. Refusing now means you agree she deserves it, but you're unwilling to help her get what she's earned, which makes you look selfish and unsupportive. Or consider this variation. She's dealing with emotional stress, and she says, "I've been dealing with so much lately. I deserve something that makes me feel good about myself. I deserve to have nice things." Again, she's using the language of deservedness to justify material desires. And because you care about her emotional well-being, you feel obligated to provide those nice things as a way of supporting her through difficult times. Trick 3. I didn't ask for it, but... This psychological trick uses false modesty and indirect communication to create pressure while maintaining plausible deniability. She pretends to be shy, modest, or reluctant about expressing her desires, but then she goes ahead and expresses them anyway in a way that's carefully crafted to make you feel like you should provide what she wants, even though she's claiming not to be asking for it. The psychology at work is reverse manipulation through performative humility. By prefacing her desire with, "I didn't ask for it," or "I don't want to ask," she's signaling that she's not the kind of demanding or materialistic person who makes requests. This lowers your defenses because she seems reasonable and modest. But then she immediately describes exactly what she wants, how much she wants it, and how much it would mean to her. The combination creates pressure to give while making you feel like it was entirely your idea. What makes this trick particularly manipulative is the guilt it generates. Because she's framed herself as someone who isn't asking for anything, you feel like you should volunteer to give her what she clearly wants. After all, she was humble enough not to demand it, so shouldn't you be generous enough to provide it anyway? The reverse psychology makes you want to exceed her stated expectations, to prove that you're thoughtful and caring. Here's how this typically plays out. You're shopping together, or she's showing you something online, and she says, "I didn't want to ask, but I really love that purse. I know it's expensive though, so forget I mentioned it." Everything about this statement is carefully calculated. She claims she didn't want to ask, which makes her seem modest. She expresses genuine desire for the item. She acknowledges the expense, which makes her seem reasonable and aware. Then she tells you to forget it, which creates a challenge to your generosity. The manipulation is that you now feel compelled to buy that purse to prove that cost isn't an issue, that you're willing to give her things she wants even when she doesn't directly ask, and that you're a better partner than she even expected. She didn't ask for it, so giving it to her feels especially generous on your part. But she orchestrated the entire scenario to produce exactly that outcome. This trick works because it makes you believe that spending money on her is your independent decision driven by generosity rather than a manipulated response to careful psychological pressure. You feel good about yourself for being thoughtful and giving, not realizing that you were guided to that exact response through subtle manipulation. Trick 4. If you really loved me, you'd do this. This psychological trick is one of the most directly manipulative because it explicitly weaponizes love itself as leverage for financial demands. She uses your affection and commitment as justification for why you should provide what she wants financially. The message is clear. If your love is genuine and sufficient, you'll prove it through financial support. Refusing to spend money becomes evidence that your love is inadequate, conditional, or not as strong as you claim. The psychology driving this is emotional coercion through conditional love. By linking your expressions of love directly to financial provision, she creates a framework where spending money is the only meaningful way to demonstrate genuine affection. Your words don't matter. Your time doesn't matter. Your emotional support doesn't matter. Only what you're willing to spend counts as real evidence of real love. What makes this trick so damaging is how it corrupts the entire foundation of your relationship. Love becomes transactional. Your worth as a partner becomes measured by your wallet. And no matter how much you give, it's never quite enough to satisfy her standards for what real love looks like. There will always be another request, another test, another opportunity for her to question whether you love her enough based on your willingness to spend. Let me show you how this manipulation operates in real situations. She wants something expensive, and when you hesitate or express concern about the cost, she says, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't even hesitate about this. You'd want to do it because you'd want to make me happy." Notice how she's reframed your financial concern as a love deficiency. It's not about money anymore. It's about whether your feelings are genuine. Or consider this variation. She says, "I guess you don't love me as much as I thought if you're not willing to do this one thing for me." Now she's directly attacking your feelings and your commitment. Your refusal to spend money has become evidence that you don't love her enough, that your relationship isn't as strong as she believed, and that you're failing as a partner. The guilt and panic this creates often results in immediate compliance to prove that you do love her. The most insidious aspect of this trick is that it makes your affection perpetually questionable. No matter how many times you prove your love through spending, the next request becomes another test. You're trapped in a cycle of constantly having to demonstrate your feelings through your wallet, and the cost of proving your love keeps escalating over time. Trick 5. I didn't ask for it, but it would be so nice. This psychological trick creates obligation through wistful suggestion and implied desires. She doesn't make direct demands, which would trigger your defensive responses. Instead, she expresses how wonderful it would be if she had something, how nice it would be to experience something, or how happy something would make her. The language is soft and non-demanding, but the psychological pressure is immense. The psychology at work is passive-aggressive expectation creation. The phrase, "it would be nice," sounds innocent and non-threatening. She's just sharing a pleasant thought, right? But the context makes it clear that she's hoping you'll fulfill that desire. By avoiding a direct request, she puts the burden on you to volunteer to provide what she wants. If you don't, you're ignoring a clearly expressed desire, which makes you seem inattentive or uncaring. What makes this trick effective is the guilt it generates without explicit demands. She hasn't asked you for anything, so you can't accuse her of being demanding or materialistic, but you still feel the weight of her expressed desire and the expectation that you should fulfill it. If you don't provide what she's hinted at wanting, you feel like you've disappointed her, even though she technically didn't ask for anything. Here's how this manifests in typical interactions. She sees something expensive and says, "I know it's a lot of money, but it would be so nice to get that new phone. Mine is getting so old and slow." She She's not asking you to buy it. She's just expressing how nice it would be to have it and mentioning her current phone's problems. But the implication is clear. She wants that new phone, and she's hoping you'll offer to buy it for her. The guilt sinks in because you want to be the person who makes nice things happen for her. You want to be generous, thoughtful, and capable of providing what would make her happy. So even though she didn't directly ask, you feel like you should step up and fulfill her expressed desire. When you do, she's genuinely happy and grateful, which reinforces the behavior and makes you more likely to respond to future hints. Over time, this trick trains you to be hypervigilant about her expressed desires and to automatically volunteer to fulfill them before she even has to ask directly. You become conditioned to interpret "it would be nice" as an expectation you should meet, transforming hints into obligations. Trick 6. I've been waiting for you to take care of this. This psychological trick operates by creating retroactive obligations that you never actually agreed to. She implies that it's always been your role and responsibility to handle certain financial matters, and she's been patiently waiting for you to step up and fulfill your duty. The manipulation is in presenting her expectations as established facts rather than as new requests. The psychology driving this is reinforced dependence through assumed roles. She's unilaterally decided that certain things are your responsibility as her partner, and she's framed her waiting as patience rather than as her manufacturing an obligation you never consented to. By the time she finally expresses her expectation directly, she acts like you've been failing at an agreed-upon responsibility, rather than like she's making a new request. What makes this trick particularly manipulative is how it reframes the conversation. You're not being asked if you're willing to provide financial support. You're being told that you've already been expected to provide it, and the question is why you haven't done so yet. This puts you immediately on the defensive, feeling like you've failed or forgotten something important, rather than like you're being asked to take on a new financial burden. Let me show you exactly how this sounds. She says something like, "I've been waiting for you to take care of my car payment for a while now. I thought you understood that was part of how we were going to handle things." Notice what's happened. She's presenting her expectation that you'll pay her car payment as something that was already established and agreed upon, even though you never actually agreed to that. She's framed herself as patient and reasonable for waiting, and framed you as neglectful for not having done it already. Or she might say, "I've been waiting for you to help me with my credit card debt. I assumed you'd step in once you saw how much I was struggling." Again, she's acting like your financial intervention was always expected, and she's just been waiting for you to do what you were supposed to do. You never agreed to pay her debt, but she's presenting it as an obligation you've been avoiding. The guilt this creates is powerful because it makes you feel like you've failed at something you should have been doing all along. Even though the expectation was manufactured entirely by her, you end up feeling responsible and obligated to fulfill it to make up for your perceived failure. Remember, healthy relationships don't require psychological tricks to justify financial support. Genuine partnership involves honest communication, mutual respect, and balanced contribution. If your relationship is characterized by these manipulative justifications, you're not in a partnership, you're being exploited. Stay aware, protect your boundaries, and I'll see you in the next video.